Learning this one skill will take your music to industry standard quality in months instead of years. We've found time and time again this is the easiest and fastest way to break through the intermediate plateau and finally achieve the sound you have in your head. Yet 90% of self-recording artists completely neglect this skill. In fact, we built our entire audio school around this simple concept. After teaching thousands and thousands of students one-on-one and seeing a common pattern. Nobody else is talking about this, and nobody else teaches home recording and audio production in this way. We're the first. And it's probably because very few people truly understand this skill at all, even though it's arguably the most important part of the entire music creation process. So we're about to pull back the curtain and show you what this can do for your music, because we truly believe that this is the key that will unlock everything you really want. To hear your songs come to life, to share the music that's inside of you, to floor your bandmates and your family with how amazing your music sounds, and to ultimately leave something behind for the world. What is this skill, you're asking? Well, we call it reverse engineering, and it's a way to look at music creation holistically. It's a perspective that allows you to see exactly where you're going from the moment you think of a song and reverse engineer the entire process. But to do this properly, you need to understand the technical, scientific side of audio production, which is often overlooked. It's easy these days to dive right in and start recording with no technical foundation. And I think that's why so many people are struggling. It's like trying to write poetry in a language you don't yet understand. We're at an inflection point in the world of home recording, a pivotal moment in history that will dictate how self-recording artists approach the entire production process over the next decade. Because while access to information and equipment has exploded, more and more people are struggling to achieve the sound in their head and turn their creative vision into reality. If anything, people are more lost now than ever before. They're thrown about in an endless sea of YouTube tricks and tips and shiny new plugins and cheap online courses. Back in the 80s, if you bought a 4-track to record on, there was at least some technical ability required. There weren't any plugins that mixed things for you or magically made things sound better without you knowing what was happening under the hood. No, you had a basic EQ section and a volume fader. That was it. And you had to develop mastery over these simple fundamental tools if you wanted to make a recording that sounded professional. We lost that essence when we moved into the digital realm. Now plug-in companies are trying to make things easier for you, and maybe too easy, I would argue. They're robbing you of an opportunity to understand the first principles of audio production. They're giving you shortcuts, but shortcuts only get you so far. When you listen to Beatles, the level of quality they were able to achieve with such limited technology, it makes you realize that the tech really isn't the issue. There's something else, much deeper, that you're missing. So if you want to develop professional level skill set as a self-recording artist, then you need to think like a professional. And no professional can get far without a solid grounding in the technical foundations of audio production. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about mixing. I'm not talking about EQ, compression, or some other tool, at least not in isolation. And I'm certainly not talking about throwaway tips and tricks that only apply to a small number of situations. I'm not going to tell you get it right at the source or use your ears either, because frankly, while those concepts are true, they simply aren't helpful to most people. How well are you supposed to do what sounds good if you don't know what good is? Instead, we've found time and time again that when our students do the complete opposite, and they focus on the end of the process rather than the beginning, it makes the entire recording process make more sense. It makes it easier and it makes it more enjoyable. It doesn't matter who you are, what kind of music you record, whether it's rock, blues, jazz, pop, or something else. Even if you've been doing this for decades and you're truly stuck at a plateau and nothing seems to be working, getting 100% clarity on where you're going, starting with the end in mind and reverse engineering the entire process is the key to breaking through the intermediate plateau, sometimes in a matter of weeks. And what's the best way to do all of that? By learning mastering. Let's break this down. First, what is mastering? Mastering is the last 10% of the music production process. It's the final sheen that you put on your track to have your mix go from this to this. And mastering is more than a signal chain. It's not just throwing an EQ or a compressor or a limiter on your stereo bus. Mastering is a mindset. It's a philosophy. Nobody teaches mastering because nobody really understands mastering. In fact, 99% of videos on YouTube are about mixing. And even when they talk about mastering, they're actually talking about mix bus processing. Understanding the philosophy of mastering is the key to achieving professional quality with your music. Now that you're clear on what mastering is, why is learning this skill such an effective way of accelerating the learning process? Well, there's 3 reasons, really. 1, you're working on a single stereo file instead of a mix project with 20 plus channels. Let me show you an example. Here's a mixing project, and here's a mastering project. It's a big difference, right? It's easier and faster to develop mastery over the tools at your disposal when you're only working with one file. 2, it allows you to start with the end in mind. Without knowing your destination, you can't really start on a trip. And once you're clear on where you're headed, you can reverse engineer the entire process. 3, it forces you to learn the technical side of audio production because mastering is the most technically objective portion of the song creation process. When you learn how to master first, you're learning how to understand frequencies and how they interact. This makes recording and mixing both better and easier. Now we've covered the what and the why of learning mastering, let's cover the how. For years now, we've been teaching mastering to our students inside our flagship 2-year program called The Reverse Engineer. This allows us to go really in depth and train people to a professional level. But for those of you who aren't yet ready to make that kind of commitment, or simply want to explore the world of mastering, we're launching something brand new. It's a 3-day virtual event called Intro to Mastering. In just 3 days, our goal is to accelerate the process of learning this dark art and take you from a beginner level when it comes to mastering to the point where you can confidently master your own music. And while 3 days obviously isn't enough time to teach you this to a professional level, we're going to give you the fundamental insights that will allow you to see the entire music-making process more holistically. We'll give you more clarity on the end goal. We'll show you how to start reverse engineering the entire production process and take everything you're learning about mastering and apply it to the tracks you record and mix. You'll be working alongside us and applying everything you learn each day. Over the span of 3 days, you'll master 3 different tracks with practice material provided by us. Then we'll show you how we would have approached the same track so you can see where the gaps are. To be clear, this event is for people who are completely new to mastering. No prior experience is needed, but we've designed this event for people who are at an intermediate level when it comes to recording and mixing. You need a decent understanding of how your DAW works and how things like EQ and compression work. If you've finished 5 or more mixes in your lifetime, you'll be fine. If not, you might be a better fit for one of our beginner events. That's okay too. Let's break down how this event will work, day by day. On day 1, we'll cover the frequency spectrum. This is where we'll dive into EQ and show you how to think about EQ like a mastering engineer. This will give you a completely new perspective on how to think about frequencies. We'll do live demonstrations on using EQ on a variety of masters, and then you'll go away and master a track yourself using EQ only. On day 2, we'll cover the dynamic spectrum and deep dive into compression and dynamic control tools. We'll show you how to use compression to manipulate dynamics, manage transients, and enhance dynamic intent. Then you'll go away and master a second track, this time using both EQ and compression. On day 3, we'll cover the loudness spectrum, and this is where we start exploring the various techniques for getting your masters sounding loud without adding distortion. Again, we'll demonstrate this process on several live masters, then you'll go away and do the same. This time, doing a full master with EQ, compression, and limiting. At this point, you'll have a decent understanding of the mastering process. You'll have mastered 3 tracks yourself and watched us master a bunch of tracks. So you'll naturally have a better understanding of where you're ultimately going every time you start a new track. You'll have more technical proficiency when it comes to understanding audio production in general, and you'll be able to use EQ and compression with a lot more confidence. From there, you can either continue the journey with us and dive deeper into the world of mastering, or you can go away with this newfound perspective on production and keep doing exactly what you're doing. Either way, it'll be a major step towards translating your song ideas into reality. So if you want to join us for this Intro to Mastering virtual event, here's what to do next. On this page, you'll see the start time and date of the event and more information on how it all works. Then when you're ready, click on the button to go to the checkout and claim your seat. We wanted to make this event a no-brainer for you to join, so while the investment for our full 2-year program is many thousands of dollars, this 3-day event is only going to cost you $19 to attend. That's the cost of a single sit-down meal to dramatically improve the quality of your music. We're also going to cap the number of people who can attend this event to make sure we have plenty of time to answer your questions and review some of your work. So if you see a waiting list when you try to register, it means it's too late. Wait for the next thing. Lastly, to make this even more of a no-brainer, if you aren't happy with this event for any reason, just email us at support@mastering.com and we'll refund you the full amount, even after the event has finished. Okay, that's all from me. Click the button when you're ready to register, and I hope to see you there.